Shalom. This is your Wyndham Raz Baruchu Teferi. So yeah, man, so we got to watch the whole video and everything like that. And the interesting things is that what we really notice is that, man, these brothers like well, these ones Jabari, and then I think Polite is at the end of this video. They obviously suffer from I noticed they mentioned Catholicism. They mentioned Catholicism. So it's not like they really mentioning any real Ethiopian Hebrew roots, you know. And they keep on coming at some of the Hebrews, some of the Israelites like Chazariak and them. And then I think was it that guy Michael? Is it Michael Edwards? Michael Edwards is that preacher, right? Is it the Black Jesus preacher? I'm not sure. You know, I may have them mixed up in, you know, I'm sorry about that if I didn't get your names or whatever that is quite right. But I think he's speaking about the one Michael Edwards and everything like that. But basically, what the Lord says, what the Almighty says in the Bible, he says that Egypt is my glory. And also HAILE, QEDAMAWI, HAILE SELASSIE, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, the King of Kings. He says that for my part, I glory in the Bible. So it's obvious that when we're speaking about the glory, the Mamleket or the kingdoms, like the first kingdoms, who had the laws, who had those laws instituted to them of the Almighty. Now we could go before the flood, but we're gonna go after the flood. For some reason, we don't know why Jabari decided to use Ramesses. I don't know why he used Ramesses, because Ramesses is not even you know, even for the Egyptians, I don't even think Ramesses was a good king to them. You know what I mean? I think they didn't even like Ramesses. Really, if you look at their, if you look at the ancients and you pay attention to the prophecies of the ancient Egyptians, I think they even prophesied about how Ramesses was not a good king. Like if you really like the lower pyramid age, because Ramesses was involved with the lower pyramid age. Another thing, Ramesses was cruel. He was cruel, and he was pretty kind of evil too. He was really kind of evil guy. He was very full of pride. That's another thing that maybe you brothers y'all might want to get a grip on. He had way too much pride. He want to bow down to the Almighty Elohim. Even though they had those schools instituted and Moses was one of the, we know this because Dr. Ben Jokanan's book, we were in Dr. Ben Jokanan's book, and we were in, see, I would have used this right here. I would have more used this. I wouldn't have used Ramesses. I wouldn't have used Ramesses time period. You know what I mean? I personally wouldn't have used Ramesses because Ramesses is like a later period in Egyptian history. And it was like a fall. It was like a fall period. Because you already had the time where Joseph was in Egypt and all the people were gathering together, where there was a famine. There was a famine in the whole world. And the whole world had to go to Egypt for corn. You remember that? And another thing I think he mentioned in there, I think he mentioned something about Lot, but I'm not even going to get into that. And then another thing he mentioned was something about... for some reason, I think for controversial purposes, like to draw you in the water, to get into them debates, they be mentioning that homosexual shit. I wouldn't even respond to that shit no more. That sounds like a desperate attempt to fight to me. You know what I mean? Because if you call a real man that shit, you're just gonna upset him. You know what I'm saying? So, you can refer to doctrine like that if you want to. I mean, that's not going to really hold no water, because the meaning of the doctrine didn't mean that. The Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, put people to death for immoral practices just like the Bible did. And the only comparisons that you really have with ancient Egypt and the Bible are the institution, the righteous laws and orders and commands that were put into place. Now, we go way back to Nimrod. Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the High Elohim. Remember that? My Hebrew brothers, you know what I'm saying? I hope you paying attention. You remember that Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the High Elohim? We'll go into a vid on that. We're going to do a vid on that. Because that was way before, if you will get into when Egyptian history really started. That was not called Egypt at that time. And it was before the Tower of Babel, and then Egypt really didn't start getting its roots until after the Tower of Babel. You know what I mean? In the Bible. So I would probably even say like the first 5,000 years of history, Egypt wasn't even there. You know what I mean? Egypt was not even there, and we'll get into that in a moment, because before that time they were called Mitzrayim. It was the sons of Cush actually that had the first Mamluk, the first kingdoms, great kingdoms of the earth, and then Cush's son Nimrod became the mighty hunter. You know what I'm saying? He became a mighty hunter before the HaILE, and it was said he was hunting the Assyrians, who latter the Egyptians kind of fell off to. Remember, the Egyptians kind of fell off in the, if you read the Book of Destruction of Black Civilization, remember the Egyptians were, they were marrying the daughters of foreign kings, remember? And then, so the kings were establishing land in the land, and they would establish more and more land, and they would push the original Egyptians out. And then they also would call themselves Egyptians. Remember that? Remember like the Mongoloid period and everything, like the mixed breed period where they had the whiter Asians that were telling the mixed breed brothers that they were better than their black brothers because they had that mixed blood and everything. Remember? And also even in many parts of Africa, that's a big practice. They probably still do it now. Hopefully not. Hopefully they're getting rid of it. But if you have like a drop of white blood, you consider white and all that. Well, that was one of those practices that Egypt allowed to come in and that had the land taken over. This is not what we making up. This is what we read. This is obviously truth. This really happened. And if you look now, there's some similarities in it too. When you're in a land where you are a black or brown person and the majority of people around you is another race of people, and you decide that, you know, in your eyes, you're a grasshopper in their eyes, and you decide that you're degraded under their template. You know what I mean? And this can happen. But what Jabari basically shows you is if there's any glory in Egypt of the Almighty HaElohim. We're not gonna argue gods. We're not gonna argue gods because we're gonna say Yahweh HaElohim, and one of them might say Ra something, or, you know what I mean? They may go into one of their gods they might worship or whatever like that. So we're not gonna go there. The only way that, as far as uniting, freeing the people, the way that the people could come together and see what's good is comparing righteous doctrine. That's the only thing we can do. We can compare righteous doctrine. We can compare righteous laws. Now, there was something he mentioned about his one of the Hebrew brothers' wives being on her menstrual, and then how she had her own area of the room, and, you know, for her 7 days and everything like that. And if they're able to do that and not being over righteous, because some people don't have that. Some people don't have, you know, and being at the mercy of HaElohim, explaining to us cleanliness is next to godliness, and explaining us the laws of motherhood and how to be clean, you know, how to be a clean people and what we doing. You know what? Shalom. We're going to continue. Shalom.